Welcome back to Arcane Eye. Today I'm joined by all three of our adventurers. Veronica's not sitting today out. And today we're going to be continuing on our Dragonlance Shadow the Dragon Queen campaign. Woo! That's when you guys are supposed to cheer. Come on.
We haven't rehearsed.
Well, without further ado, let's get into the recap so we can get this session going. Last week, the invasion of Vogler had begun. Using all the tools at your disposal, Zun and Lance gnome-flung themselves across the cliffs bordering Vogler to get the drop on sentries that the dragon armies had posted. After the sentries were defeated, you rallied the town to begin evacuating the townsfolk by river. As they prepared to leave, you went about your own preparations, like rigging Thornwall Keep to blow with the hopes of staving off the attackers. Eventually, night fell and the dragon armies attacked. You managed to get the drop on them and hold them off long enough for every townsfolk to evacuate, but in the end, you were overrun. Using a grenade given to you by Than the gnome tinker, you managed to cause enough of a distraction to escape onto a boat headed downriver. Unfortunately, Becklin decided to stay behind to ensure no innocents were left in the town.
Oh yeah.
As the boat sails down the river, you can see the area where the ironclad regiment stood, ambushed the dragon army. The ground is blackened and the trees are on fire. Flames glint off the armor of a massive dragon-like contraption with wheels and a flaming maw being carted around by dragon army soldiers. Before you can get a better look, your boat rounds the bend and you're left with the flickering red flames on the horizon towards Vogler. So, just to recap, you guys have managed to get all the townsfolk off. You're all out of the town. You are you got them all off. Good job.
It took a long time.
You're floating on the river in a boat. Right now, your boat, it has like Raven in it, Darrett is in it, and a couple other townsfolk. And then looking around you, you can see that every other townsfolk, probably 300, 400 of them, have climbed onto some form of raft or floating device and are floating along with you. The river's taking you at quite a good clip away from Vogler. But is there anything you guys want to do, or do you want to float on to your destination?
Float on.
I can't really think of anything. Who else is on our ship?
Raven, Darrett, and we'll say the three of you. Last session, we made a couple jokes, Veronica, at Val's behalf, saying that she had just like fucked off and got on a boat first. But we'll say in actuality, you were helping the townsfolk out at the harbor, like organizing people onto boats and getting them pushed off and stuff like that. So you weren't the first one out, but you definitely weren't like standing toe to toe with the Draconians as they swarmed over the village.
I'd like to check in with Derek.
You see that he is just like, not only like he's bruised, he's battered, and he's just like sitting moodily at the boat, like staring at the water as it rushes past.
I just want to give him just put my hand on his shoulder, like just give it a little squeeze, and then just leave it at that.
And he looks up and gives you like a thin smile, like just like, and then just turns to look away, and you can see like through his stained face that there are like tear streaks and everything. Like Becklin was his mentor, and probably everything he knew was in Vogler, so he's taken it rough. And then Raven, all you kind of hear is the sound of water hitting the sides of your boat, and Raven's like, it's about 30 miles by boat to Kalaman. We'll probably be on the river most of the night and arrive there in the morning. And, just like kind of like fades off. You can see that she's just like shook to her core. Doesn't know what to do at this point.
I'm gonna the shoulder thing seemed to work with Derek, so I'll give that a go with her as well.
She gives you a nod of thanks and it's just like, without the two of you, I imagine three of you. Sorry, Val. I imagine that most of the townsfolk would have still been there and would have. Tonight would have turned out a lot differently, and at the very least, the people of Vogler have their lives.
Oh, sorry. I have a really quick question. Not as Lance, but as Russell.
Okay.
So, do you remember Brenda?
Yes. Oh, fuck. Who was in the dungeons?
Yes. Okay. Wait, where did we last leave Brenda? Like, we locked her up in the keep.
Make me a D20 roll, and we'll see if anybody remembered Brenda.
Oh, damn! I made a schoolboy error. 1 sec.
Are you rolling it in the tower? Because I was watching back the session from actually when we were all in person, and it was just like I was watching the end of it, and it was like, oh yeah, and we just lock her up in the keep.
Yeah, Thornwall Keep. Yeah,
That's it.
That's cool though, because now we've like made a nemesis out of Brenda that could actually return.
or maybe you just crushed her under like 100 feet of rock.
Yeah, because we knocked the tower down on top of the army. Potentially.
Right.
So somebody roll me a D20, and I will make a note to see what has happened to Brenda.
It's a 7.
It's a 7.
Oh no.
Okay.
That's what's happened to Brenda.
Okay. I will keep that in mind. But like, yeah, you're just like, you give Raven a squeeze on the shoulder. She nods at you back and thanks you, and then your face just kind of like drops, and you're just like, oh fuck, like we just locked up a prisoner, then dropped a keep on them. Like that's like probably the most intense form of summary execution you could get. But you don't know what the fate of Brenda Todd.
Yeah, Brenda was a half ogre.
Yes, it's true. Very hardy.
If she was a half orc, then she'd definitely be dead.
Yeah, right. Of course. So are you guys doing anything else, or do you want to wipe cut to you guys arriving at Kalaman?
Yeah, let's butt wipe to Kalaman.
I was recently watching the original trilogy of Star Wars, and they do so many wipe cuts. It's crazy.
They love a good wipe in Star Wars.
It's crazy. I was like, wow.
One.
Oh yeah, it's kind of like a laugh track. Like when you hear a laugh track nowadays, it's just so apparent. But anyways, so all three of you can roll me a intelligence history check to see how much you know about Kalaman. I will say, Zun and Lance, you can roll with advantage because you are Knights of Solamnia, and this is a capital of the Solamnic province, Nightland.
Oh, cool. Well,
16.
18.
I guess I skipped history class in night school. I got 12.
Okay. So yeah, you would know, all of you would know enough about Kalaman to know that, like I said, it's the capital of the Solamnic province, Nightland. It's a thriving trade city known for its strong walls, castle, and harbor beacons, all of which predate the Cataclysm. The city is led by a governor, a council of prominent guild leaders, and a military marshal. Kalaman maintains a significant military force to deter raiders from Estwild and monsters from Dargard Mountains. The city sits at the mouth of the Vingard River, about 30 miles downriver from Vogler. But yeah, that's generally what you know about Kalaman. It's certainly more of a established place than Vogler was.
Right. What do I know about this place?
Oh, you want to know about that place, eh? So for reference, I'll put that map back. And
I saw like a cool looking keep on a mountain sort of looking thing down a river.
Make me a history check.
History. That is a 16.
That's a 16. So you would know that that is Dargard Keep. And there's a lot of history of that place. So, which is why I made you roll a history check. When the cataclysm happened a couple hundred years ago, it was said that a knight of Solamnia was given the opportunity to prevent the cataclysm. He was tasked by the gods to deliver a message to the king priest of Istar before he did his ritual and tried to ascend to godhood. That knight of Solamnia was known as Lord Soth, and he failed on his mission, and so the gods cursed him to become a death knight. And he lives forever, and he is an extremely powerful, evil, and angry force of necromantic power.
Right.
And he resides at Dargard Keep.
Cool.
With his...
So you're saying that we need to go perform some other quests and then maybe return to this line of questioning.
Yes, well, what I'm saying is that people have a lot of superstition around Dargard Keep, and you're not exactly sure if Lord Soth is a myth or not.
Right.
But, people would actively avoid that area.
Yeah, and I bet for Lance and I in the Knights of Solamnia, he would be a big deal as well.
Yeah, I would imagine that your organization, like the figureheads of your organization, would not want you talking about Lord Soth because it's like a bad mark on their record for sure. Having one of the most powerful necromantic forces in the world stem from your organization isn't a good look.
Mm.
So, you guys spend a tough night in a small cramped boat heading downriver. Taking shifts, being the one at the rudder, just kind of steering and navigating the river and making sure that you guys can get to Kalaman. And you see, just as the gray sky or the sky starts to turn into a dull iron gray over to your east, that you see Kalaman on the horizon. And what's noted first is this bright shining light in their harbor. And you would know that they have these beacons in their harbor that predate the cataclysm. They have a series of fancy lenses that can reflect the light in all sorts of ways and keep ships able to come into the port at all times of night. So that's your first observation when you round the bend and see Kalaman on the horizon. And as you approach, you can see the skyline starts to develop, and looming over above everything is Castle Kalaman, sat up on an 100-foot ridge with tall walls and towers, making it an imposing and magnificent sight on the skyline.
Okay, so it's important to know how I would feel about this is, as a Knight of Solamnia, would this be sailing into Kalaman? Would this be a fairly typical sight? Would I be fairly underwhelmed, or would I be
You were trained in Solamnia, which is an even grander city than this.
Oh, but I may not have been here before.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. Like Knights of Solamnia very rarely travel outside of like the immediate province of Solamnia and the surrounding regions. So it was quite interesting and unique to be sent to the Kalaman province on your original quest, which was to find what was happening with like farmers and things
Oh,
being
sorry. I
raided.
think I got confused. I thought you said that this is the capital city of the Kalaman province.
Yes.
Right.
Well,
I think I heard so. Well, at
it's the
some point.
capital city of the Solomnic province of
Oh,
Nightland.
Of Nyland. Okay, that's what you said. Yeah.
Yes.
okay. I think it was the bit at the end that I
was
ignored, and I was just like, "Oh, it's the capital city of the Solonians."
Right. Yeah, you would have, as I'm just pulling this up now. Actually, yeah. So, we're just discussing geography at this point. But,
I just want
so,
to make sure I kind of understand, like, because if I just want to make sure I didn't like train here and grow up here and stuff, then I would have a
no, no,
different
no.
way of behaving about town than if I was from somewhere else.
So, you would. So, what
But
I'm doing is just pulling up the map here, just to give everybody a good history lesson. So, you can see here that Solamnia all the way over here. This is probably where you guys originated from. Like you guys would tour around this general vicinity on your training and stuff like that. You probably would have hailed from a region nearby. And then Kalaman all the way up here, still a Solomnic province or part of a Solomnic province, but very far removed from the typical Knight of Solamnia territory.
Okay.
Good to know.
Okay,
And
okay.
none of us have been here, but well, maybe Val has. I don't know, but
I'm gonna say no
us
for Zundrium.
on Monday
Yeah,
nights.
I would say that, and Val, we nobody knows what Val's all about. I think we established, Val, that you lived around the Vogler region. Um, would you have ever made it down to Kalaman?
I don't know. Maybe it's like my first time here.
Cool. First time in the big city.
Yeah, first time in the big city.
Sweet. So, by the time you reach shore closest to the city, it's fully bright out. You're able to see what you're doing. You can see that the walled city of Kalaman rises in the distance, spreading across the southern shore of a wide bay. Ships sail to and from the walled harbor, their courses lit by a pair of towering beacons. On the shore ahead, where the Vingard River meets Kalaman Bay, dozens of survivors from Vogler have pulled up their mismatched boats ashore and begun making camp. So you're one of the last boats to pull up to the shore, just because you were the last ones out. And you can see that people are starting to unpack their boats, organize to assess their numbers, reunite families and such. But as your boat rolls in, I want each of you to roll me 1d4.
Bauer.
Dude,
And Val?
I got 3.
Oh, perfect. So, Zundrium, you see two rowdy youths are trying to take advantage of the chaos to rob a disliked neighbor. You can see they're kind of like, there's a bit of a ruckus going on, and they're kind of like, "Hey, give that to me!" And they're kind of like, pulling this chest out of this guy's hand. He's like, "No, I brought this. This is the last of all I have." And Lance, you see that an older refugee has slipped in shallow water and is just kind of holding their ankles sitting on the bank of the water. And Val, you see a couple shivering beside an unlit stack of firewood, staring off in the direction of Vogler. So we'll resolve these one at a time. Zundrium, what would you like to do? You guys have landed the boat. You're able to get out onto the shore and do whatever you would like at this point.
Cool. So yeah, I noticed the neighbor who's being taken advantage of during the ruckus, and um I like look over to my party members who seem to be getting off the ship fine and have their bearings. So I push on over to the. You said it's two guys giving one guy,
Yeah.
two young guys giving like an older guy trouble
Yeah.
trying to take his chest.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, so I just walk over and I just say, "Hey, what seems to be the problem here?"
And you can see that the youths are immediately like they're kind of like set aback by a knight, kind of just like wading into their midst, and they're just like, oh, this guy's trying to take our chest. And without an insight check, you know that they're lying.
Right. I say, well, the chest seems like it belongs to him.
The neighbor who's like clutching the chest with one arm starts to like push his way up, and he's like, yeah, it really does. So make me a intimidation or persuasion check to convince these youths to bugger off.
Yeah, I clutch the hilt of my my hammer.
Just start fucking like batching heads in.
Oh no! It's
Military
for the RP
rule.
of my intimidation check. So that's probably gonna fail though. That's not 11.
You can see that they're kind of like, we don't need the help from you shinies anymore. You're probably the reason that those guys attacked our village. And they kind of just like storm off, and you know the crowd around you disperses with a bit of muttering.
Cool. I shout at him as he walks off. We're the reason more of you didn't die.
Ooh, I like that. Make me a persuasion check or intimidation just to see if you can get the crowd back on your favor.
I'll roll with persuasion this time. My tone has shifted. All right, that is 14.
Okay, cool. Yeah, you can see that like only like one or two like really angry people in the crowd like glance over your way. The rest of them are kind of like nodding along.
Right.
Lance, so you saw an older refugee slip in the water and sprain their ankle.
Yeah, I'll sort of jog over there and just give him a lift up, arms under the.
And yeah, you can see as you approach, splashing through the water. He's like, "No, I'm fine. And then just tries to like put a bit of weight on it. Yeah.
Is there a medic or someone who can help? I say to the crowd.
You see that like most of the people are looking at you with like haunted, tired eyes.
You say it loud enough for Zundrium to hear.
Yeah, you know that your buddy is a.
Oh wait, no, hold on. That reminds me, I have a character with things I can do. I'm gonna pick them up and carry them to somewhere they can sit comfortably, where they're not in the water.
Yeah, you find like a rock that they can sit on comfortably nearby.
And I'll say, don't worry, everything's gonna be all right. And I'm gonna place my hands on their sprained ankle, and I'll lay on hands them.
And yeah, like it would just expend one of your points, your lay on hand pool, and like a very soft, radiant white glow. Actually, we established that Zundrium's magic is brown. What color is your divine magic, Lance?
It's not brown.
Okay,
that's
perfect, good.
I think it's like a. Yeah, it's kind of a warm orangey white.
Okay, I like that.
Like a evening sun.
Cool. So yeah, you place your hands around the ankle. A very faint white orange glow radiates from your hands, and the refugee like almost like pulls his ankle back, and then like obviously puts pressure on it, and it's just like, my word, how did you do that, son?
It's so you just need to know where the correct pressure points are on the ankle sprains. Very easy to heal.
And he just looks at you with like, dumbfounded awe as you kind of like get up and start helping the other folks.
Anyway, have a great day.
Have a great day after everything they just experienced.
Oh, true. I mean, he'll appreciate some normality. Like, just bottle it up, pretend it didn't happen.
Okay, Val, you see a couple sits shivering beside an unlit stack of firewood with like PTSD eyes.
I guess I'll go over to them and unlit stack of fire. Can I build them a fire?
Sure can. Would you like to, if you're trying to light the fire with mundane means, it would be a survival check. Although if you have any fire magic, you could just like... I think that you've been kind of focusing on ice.
I think so too.
the one challenge you could not accomplish, light something on fire.
No, I have burning hands.
Okay, well, we'll say that you don't have to like shoot out an explosion of fire or anything. That you could use like a small amount of burning hands to like, you kind of like organize the wood into the proper burning shape. And then, give it a quick light, and the flames quickly kindle to life. And, the couple like kind of like snap out of their trance and are just like, oh, thank you so much.
No problem. Anytime.
So I'll say specifically Zundream and Lance, make me perception checks.
Is 12. The gods are not with me tonight.
Well, that is 15.
15. Lance, as you're, kind of looking around, you're helping families unpack their boats and like setting their possessions down on dry ground. You are like, you have like a twinge, a feeling of intuition. And as you stand up straight and look around, you can see that Bacchus and his son are not around you.
I was wondering about Bacchus. I was going to ask. They were on one of the first boats because they were such fucking cowards about it, right?
Yeah,
like they were straight out. We saw them get on a boat, right? We were arguing with them as they got on there.
Yeah. And the boat that they pulled up in, like, you do a quick scan of the shore and you can see that boat along with, some of the workers that or some of the townsfolk that shared the boat with them. They're still continuing to like unload and help other villagers, but Bacchus and his son are nowhere in sight.
I'm going to flag that to the man I trust, Zundrium, and ask him if he's on. I don't see Bacchus and Bacchus the younger anywhere.
Well, the fourth hadn't occurred to me.
Do you want to go have a chat with the
perhaps the
guys on the ship?
Yeah. Let's maybe talk to the people around where a ship is docked and see what we can find out.
Hey Val, would you like to tag along in case we need to like freeze anyone or like set anyone on fire?
Sounds good.
Yeah.
So you approach some workers that are like have their pants rolled up to their knees, and they're wading out and catching boats, pulling them ashore, grabbing kids, placing them on dry ground.
Can we start to like assist with like some of the like grabbing of like grabbing of refugees and helping them get to the dry ground?
Yeah. So are you going to ask about Bacchus, or do you want to spend some time helping everybody unload and
I
unpack?
think you have to start with a kindness before you ask for one, right?
Okay, cool. I like it. So yeah, you see some guy like grab this like big looking crate off a boat and turn around, and you kind of like catch it for him and easily are able to navigate it to shore. And you
take his crate and yet a second one and carry it with.
If you want to do that, make me a strength check. No, I'm kidding.
Sure. All right.
You set down the crate, and the guy, he just looks exhausted. He's just like, thanks for the help, sir. I don't know how to address you guys.
Yeah, why don't you take a load off for a few minutes and be happy to help you with some crates and loading off some of the little ones. But yeah, perhaps I could ask you for a kindness in return.
You see, you kind of both turn around because he kind of like waves off your request to sit down. You guys both kind of like wade back out to a boat, grab a crate together, and begin like hauling it back. And he's like, "Well, what do you need?"
The Lord Bacchus is hoping to have a quick chinwag with him now that we're here in Kalaman. Do you happen to see where he got off to?
You guys set down the crate on the shore again. He's like, "Aye, the Lord has gone up to the castle. He said he's going to negotiate with the Kalaman Council on our behalf."
I should like to hear what comes of that meeting. I thank you for your advice. And say like I kind of give a nod to Lance and Val and to kind of indicate, all right, we'll be true to our word and help out here for another kind of like 10 minutes, and then we'll slip away.
Cool. So yeah, you guys continue on. Help, like all the boats are shored by the time 10 minutes is up, and people are still trying to organize themselves, but families have found each other, and then Raven kind of comes up to you and says, "Well, thank you again so much for your help with everything. Really, we would not be here without you. And even being here is pretty good. I'm saying that we'd probably all be dead without you, I guess."
So, Raven, I'll have to stop. I'll stop you there. I appreciate your thanks, but as mayor of the town, should you not be up in the council meeting discussing what happens next with the the Alderman of Kalaman or whatever they're called?
You see, she's kind of like wiping off her hands, glancing around the camp, and it's just like council meeting.
Well, I just learned that Lord Saccharus, he's gone up there to have a meeting with the council.
You see that she just like goes pale and furious at the same time, and she's like, "Oh, that man. Look, I'm not the mayor any longer. My city has burned, and while I will do what I can to try to lead the people of Vogler, I think that the 2 nights of Solamnia would hold more sway in a council meeting in Kalaman than some waterlogged mayor."
Well, why don't myself and Lance and our cheeky friend Val here accompany you to the council meeting? I can only think that Lord Bacchus would make up some story to refuse our entry without you.
You see she nods, calls over somebody, kind of gives them some instructions to help the villagers set up, and then says, "Let's go. We shouldn't waste any time." and then just takes off at a brisk pace towards Kalaman.
Cool. So as we're walking, I kind of check back in with Lance and Belle, and I'm just like, is this cool? Anything that you guys want to add to how we're
No, this is perfect. Yeah, I'm very happy.
So, as you approach the city, the walk is about 2 miles, and you're walking for some time. And as you approach the city, statues of titanic soldiers line Kalaman's mighty walls. The ancient stone knights stare into the distance, daring invaders to dash themselves against defenses that withstood even the cataclysm. A disorganized neighborhood of tents and ramshackle structures line the road to the city's nearest gate, where soldiers in blue and yellow uniforms are scanning the crowds. You can see that there are plenty of people coming in and out, and the guards are, stopping any like vagrant-looking people. But you guys in Knight of Solamnia armor, even if it's a bit scratched up and dented, definitely get some crisp salutes as you head through the city gates.
It was nice to be saluted after being called a fucking shiny every day of my life.
So you guys are making your way straight for the castle?
Where I guess we're following Raven and
the castle is where you heard that Saccharis was headed to talk to the council. As you enter the city gates, you can see that even if the imposing Castle Kalaman didn't stand atop 100-foot cliffs, it would still tower over every other structure in the city. The path to it rises up the cliffside, overlooked by gigantic statues matching those that line the city's walls. At the path's end, guards stand before an open gate. As you approach, you can see that they kind of look at each other, then step forward and say, "Please state your business to enter the castle."
I speak up and I say, we're accompanying Mayor Raven here to the council meeting, which seems to have begun without her.
She says, or the guards say, "Oh, so you are from the contingent of townsfolk from Vogler?"
Yes, we're fleeing the Red Army invasion of the town of Vogler.
You see they nod and turn around and say, "Follow me." And as you follow, you hear that Raven speaks up to you, just kind of like touches your arm and says, "I am not Mayor Raven any longer. You can call me Raven, but I failed as my job in mayor."
I just say back to her, don't be so hard on yourself. The town may be gone, but the people who elected you remain, and they depend on your leadership.
Make me a persuasion check.
That's a 15.
Yeah. You see, you can see her shoulders, which were like pretty slumped, kind of like, come back a little bit. And she's walking with a bit more confidence now. And as you cross Castle Kalaman's paved courtyard, a familiar figure intercepts you with an arrogant smile. Baccharis the Younger. And he says, "My father has matters well in hand. We'll be sure to send for you and the rest of the fish folk once we've determined what's best for them."
Can I just push him out of the way?
Yeah, make me a strength check.
Set aside.
He'll contest that.
Is this an athletics?
Yeah, sure.
19.
Oh, wow. He got a 16. So you see that he's kind of like posted up, like 1 foot ahead, 1 foot back. Like he's almost like expecting the shove. But, you just catch him like right in the chest and push him back. He falls back 3 or so steps. out of your path, and you guys begin to walk forward. And he's just like, you pathetic folk would be better off if you just listened to us anyways.
I'm just going to keep walking like he doesn't
Yeah,
matter.
yeah, be the bigger man. Yeah.
Love it. So you cross the courtyard, enter the castle, and are led to two large oaken doors that are closed.
Oaken shields?
Yeah, two oaken shields, warden shields. Aeona Warden Shield, that was her name. You see the guards open up the doors, and you see 8 serious people sit around a broad table in the middle of a spacious hall. At the table's end, a tall man with plaited blonde hair and a velvet vest of blue and gold stands to greet you. Welcome, guests. I'm Governor Kalof Mayat. You appear to be part of the contingent of folk from Vogler.
Yes, we seem to be getting asked that a lot.
Well, I'm just saying that it seems like you've had a pretty rough night. Your leader here has briefed us on the situation in Vogler, his bold defense and his eagerness to strike back against these invaders. And as Mayat says this, he nods to a man near him who you can obviously see is Lord Baccharis, who glares at your intrusion. And he says, tell us, the governor continues, tell us, are your people still preparing for battle?
I just want to note that that Zundrium erupted in his trademark cackle at the moment that this guy said you're a leader here, referring to Baccharis. As soon as he said that, Zundrium,
So yeah, you see like the governor kind of like fades off. Are you preparing for battle? As you know, you're just like cackling off into this spacious hall. You know, the reverberations of your laughter ring out for a second, and everyone's
I steady myself and say, apologies, my lord. I am sorry to have to say that this man you have here is no leader. I have hundreds of witnesses from the docks that saw him and his son fleeing at a time when we needed fighting men.
Make me a you can go persuasion check.
I really wish I was charismatic for all the shit.
I'll even say with advantage.
I might not need it because that was a 18. Yeah, 18.
Wowzers! So you can see that the council people, you know, bring their heads in and murmur to one another, and the governor kind of like looks confused and then like a little bit pissed off at Baccharis, who's just kind of like stepping back. Who he was glaring at you, and now he's like obviously seeing the tides have turned against him.
He's stepping Baccharis.
He's stepping Baccharis. So the governor says, well, if Lord Baccharis here didn't give us the entire picture of of what happened, of his glorious defense of the city, yet you were overwhelmed by sheer numbers, and he was the one to lead everybody to the docks and get everybody on safely, then what did happen? And we can just skip over this. And
what is back? So Baccharis was backing away. Like, did he get up out of his chair to back away?
No. So he's kind of like standing in the middle of this hall, talking to the governor, while the council kind of listens on from this half moon table. I'd like to approach him in a way, either by putting my hand on him or imposing myself upon him in a way that he knows he can't leave. Like, he's leaving with us. Right. Okay. So, yeah, you can see his like eyes dart for the door a little bit. And you kind of like step into his line of sight, like square up with him. and he is like fiddling nervously with his like rich embroidered sleeves and coat now at this point.
I'll tell him that the true leader of Vogler, Mayor Raven, will speak to what happened in Vogler.
You see he, just like nervously shifting. Mayor Raven steps up and gives him the account, starting at about your arrival to the town of Vogler, and then
That
detailing.
Make it sound too good.
Detailing.
It all started when these guys arrived.
These two shinies. Details the betrayal at High Hill. You guys scouting out, finding the army, preparing for their invasion, the messenger coming. You guys single-handedly gnome flinging yourselves across the cliffs to defeat the scouts, and then rallying the town to find any form of escape that they could. Then also coming up with the idea to bring down the Thornwall Keep and defend the city. And you can see that the people in the council are looking at you very impressed, with one person in particular.
Is she hot?
Let's see. She is a she, so there's a stern yet hot-looking woman. Braided hair back, in full guard outfit, but very detailed and embroidered. And you can see that this is, and you would know this from being a Knight of Solamnia, that this is the marshal of the Kalaman City Watch. And she's looking at you guys. She definitely catches on to the fact that you guys are Knights of Solamnia, but you can tell that she's impressed with your efforts to defend Vogler.
Nice.
So after Mayor Raven discusses the situation, there's one part she missed out on that you've remembered, and you're wondering if you should bring up to the council. She seems to have forgotten about what happened after you landed in the boats and just before you turned the corner of the river, of this kind of clockwork dragon beast that the dragon armies had at their disposal. Do you bring that information up with the rest of the council?
Wait, what's this about a dragon beast?
you may not have been paying attention to it, but at the beginning of the session, what had happened during your escape from Vogler, you guys threw the grenade, jumped into the boat, took off down the river, and then got to the point where the Ironclad Regiment had ambushed the Dragon Army. And you saw it was completely scorched. Trees were on fire, and a bunch of Dragon Army personnel were wheeling away this giant ironclad dragon thing with a flaming maw.
Right. Well, I mean, you can't keep that to yourself, really, can you? You're on with good guys.
So, how do you bring it up?
Did Raven see it?
Maybe she's tired. Maybe she forgot.
All right, so I guess we could just she finishes telling a story, and then Zanjum's just like, "Oh yeah, and Raven, do you remember the big ironclad fiery machine mechanism thing we saw?"
Yes, I guess that slipped my mind after all the terrors and the long night. It was I didn't get a good look at it. It was dark, but it looked like a giant clockwork dragon that spewed flames from its mouth, and yeah, it was I'm not sure what would have routed the Ironclad Regiment's forces, but that device seemed to have had a part in it. And you remember that this actually happened in session last session when you guys were doing your defense of Vogler. There was like fireballs exploding in the distance.
That makes sense.
So you imagine that whatever this thing is, it provided them such a hand up in combat that it entirely turned the tides of your defense of Vogler.
Being massively outnumbered wasn't enough.
Well, maybe the Ironclad Regiment would have been more effective and prevented the Draconians from coming around and ambushing the other half of your defenders. Who knows?
Okay, cool. So all of that's been reported to the council and everybody that's here.
And Governor...
How are they feeling about it?
Governor Miet frowns and he says, "This is all dire news. My heart goes out to your friends and families, but I hope you can understand our reticence to welcome you all through the city's gates. These aren't normal times. Marshal?" And the governor gestures towards the stern woman wearing armor, and she nods and begins, "I'm Marshal Vendry, the commander of Kalaman's military forces. I'm afraid your situation is far from unique." And she goes on to say that small villages and farms in the south and east of Kalaman have been burnt in recent weeks. Vogler is the largest community to be attacked and only one of many survivors. And then she continues on. She says, a troop of Knights of Solamnia were supposed to be sent up into the Kalaman region to investigate the issues that some farmsteads were having, but unfortunately, since their departure, these situations have certainly grown in scale and become more dire.
Was that us? That was I can't remember what the lady was called, but I'll address her by all her titles and tell her that it was us.
Her name was Aona Wardenshield, and you see that Vendry doesn't look surprised. Like as she was saying that, her like cold blue eyes were kind of like looking you guys over to see if you had any reaction. And once you confirmed it, she kind of nods and says, "I imagine that your troop didn't fare much better than the rest of the folk that have been attacked by these creatures."
I believe me and Zundrium are the lone survivors.
Yeah, we've fought them 3 times now and lived.
And
possibly making us the greatest warriors in the land.
By them, what are they?
I can only describe them as draconian-looking creatures, humanoid-like but lizard-type.
This is something that I have not heard of before, and it gives me great worry that we face a new powerful foe.
Is Baccarus wearing his standard red and black?
Baccarus appears to be wearing blue, gold, and purple, and is like kind of dressed up with like ornate jewelry and such.
Oh, okay. Where do you get the jewelry from?
Kind of clash, the blue and the purple.
It looks pretty good in this picture that I'm seeing right here.
Oh, okay. So Baccarus is dressed differently to when we saw him before.
Yeah, I think that red and black might have been before the reenactment. So,
but before it became massively obvious what wearing those colors means.
Potentially. And I would say so. At one point, Russell, I know that you have. I think when you were at the beginning of the when you just discovered the enemy's encampment, you had taken one of the uniforms off the scaled creatures when it turned to dust. So you can do whatever you would like with that information.
I'm gonna pull out of my pack.
There you
go.
go.
All these uniforms.
You kind of like throw this, like it's like got a little bit of draconian dust still in it, but hits the ground in front of everybody, and they all kind of like lean over their tables to get a look at it. And it's this like red scaled armor with this black symbol of a dragon in the middle. And again, the council members mutter to themselves, and Marshal Vendry's like, Takesis. So these folks are flying the banners of some long lost evil god. I imagine that does not bode well for their intentions.
What can I recall about what their messenger or leader or whoever it was that came to pass on the message at the gates of Vogler? What can did that messenger announce any of their plans other than wanting to take the town? I'm sure that said something along the lines of like, we're gonna spread across the land and do bad guy stuff.
Yeah, so the note that you actually got from them, so this was a written note, and it said, "People of Vogler, by orders of Befelion, the voice of Takesis, you will quarter the soldiers of the invincible Red Dragon army this night. Refuse and die. This is the Dragon Queen's will."
Okay, so I recall that I still have that note in my pocket, and I say, "Oh yeah," and I hand it over to the council guy while he's looking at the dusty cloak.
And you see the councilman reads this out, and all the other council members like eyes go wide, and they're like, the Dragon Queen's will. Do these fanatics think they truly speak for a god that has not walked this earth in millennia? And Marshal Ventry is just like, it doesn't matter if they believe it or not, but these creatures are more dangerous than I fear if they are following the ideologies of Takesis. We must prepare for war.
Zundrium being kind of extra pious, since his essentially like his god has spoken to him. Like when they talk about how like, oh, these guys, they believe in like gods that haven't been around for thousands of years, they kind of speak up and just say like, let's all try to keep in mind the constraints our own lifestyles place on our way of thinking. The thousands of years to us could be merely a passing day to a god. Just because they have been gone for a long time, do not think them gone forever.
Oh, make me a persuasion check.
That is a nat 20.
That is a nat 20. Oh baby, that nat 20 definitely suits your speech, and your words fall on like resounding silence around the council members. They all looked a bit too shocked and like almost sick, thinking that Takesis could once again have her eyes turned towards the mortal plane. And
so as it's quiet for a really long time, I'm just like, so yeah, anyway, prepare for the worst, hope for the best.
You see that the governor, Miet, is kind of like, okay, well, while we discuss our options as a council. If you could just wait outside to hear the results, that would be much obliged.
May I say one more thing?
Of course, Sir Knight.
You heard this man's story. I gesture towards Bacchus. In truth, not only is this man a coward, but knowing everything that you know, the cloak, the letter, the situation we were put in, this man recommended that he go alone and treat with these invaders, these followers of Takesis. And I believe he sought to betray us.
And you can see Bacchus, he's starting to flare up again. He's like, outrageous! How could you even suggest such a thing? I was only seeking to negotiate on Vogler's behalf and thought that my name would have enough power to sway the dragon armies away from us. And the governor steps in, almost like between the two of you, and it's just like, unless I know it has been a trying couple of days for you, but unless there is concrete evidence of Bacchus's betrayal or not, we cannot rule on this, and this should be discussed amongst the Vogler townfolk.
Okay. As we're leaving, I would like to continue my discussion with Bacchus.
Okay, so you guys are led out, doors close softly behind you, and you see Bacchus is essentially just like standing across from you, spluttering. It's just like, outrageous, I cannot believe.
Lord Bacchus, where were you a lord of?
I will have you know that my family has passed down a title of nobility through generations of Solomnic titles. A couple of my predecessors were even knights of Solamnia, Sir Knight, and he like pokes into your plate with like a nice like sausagey finger.
I know, I'll just like look down at his finger, like I'm moved by it.
And he says, and that is where I get the title Lord from.
Well, it's not for me to judge you. Mayor Raven is still the leader of Vogler, and as its resident, I'm sure you're still governed by its laws. She'll make the right decision on you.
You look over at Raven, who is like, just like looking at Bacchus with a shrewd eye, just kind of like daring him to say anything. And he kind of like chews over some words, and it's just like, bah, and turns around and storms off. And Raven turns to you and she says, honestly, I don't think that man is worth the trouble of it, but I appreciate what you've done to stand up for our city in there.
You're welcome, Raven. He really is a dick.
Now I know how to like really, grind your guys' gears with a character. Just make some guy who like always butts in, is like really confident, really outspoken, cuts you guys off.
You can only do that in a campaign where we're sworn to honor, and
right.
Any other campaign, this guy would have been dead like 3 sessions ago.
Yeah, like we were playing Spelljammer, and like you put the annoying kids in, they just became the entire focus of our thing, and I was like jumping down people's insides as a plasmoid. Like,
oh yeah,
what
right.
I want to do. Talk to him. It's just like it's that situation, but I'm just like, no, I'm honorable. Kind of good.
Well, as you guys, kind of calm down after your encounter with Lord Baccharis, you kind of wait 10, 15 minutes outside the chamber doors. And finally, the chamber doors open, and most of the council members file past you, some glancing at you and, nodding. And then Marshal Vendry walks out and turns to face you guys, and she says, Governor Miet and I want to talk to you inside.
Okay.
So you follow her in. She bids you to sit, and the chairs that the council members had just vacated, and you see that in a decisive tone, Governor Miet steps up and says, the citizens of Kalaman are prepared to offer you people shelter in the neighborhoods outside the city walls, the protection of our soldiers, and while we can spare it, food from our tables. He folds his hands and fixes his eyes on you. There is a condition, though. The counselors are concerned about the threat posed by the enemy that attacked Vogler. Kalaman has woefully little information about this foe, and we have sent our own scouts to investigate other towns, and they have all disappeared. You, however, have both faced this foe and saved an entire village from its attack. In return for Kalaman protecting the people of Vogler, we would like you to report to Marshal Vendry as special operatives in the Kalaman military.
Is there anything against our Solamnia, Knights of Solamnia code or way of doing things that keep us from doing this? Like,
no, definitely not. Like you're protecting a province, even a province inside of Solamnia. So like your code would 100% be kosher with this. And even when you like pause for a second, Marshal Vendry steps forward and she says, "I know that you'd probably want to report back to your authorities with the Knights of Solamnia, but if I'm going to be honest with you, their infighting and bureaucracy would prevent anything from getting done, and it would be too late to send you back to Solamnia and then get word of what we should do next. We need to act now while the enemy is still trying to muster their forces, before they try to, attack Kalaman, even."
I agree with your haste, but cannot go above the chain of command directly. My suggestion would be that like in this world. Sorry, this is now a question from Chris. Would there be like ravens or pigeons or something, like ways that people send messages?
Yeah, like they would be sent by messenger horse. I would say that magic is still rare enough that like it'd probably be hard to find somebody that could like just send a sending spell or something like that.
Yeah, okay. I wasn't really thinking that. I was just thinking. Well, basically, what I'm going to suggest to them is that like that we can get started on this right away, but Lance and I need to send a letter to our commander to let them know what we're doing, so that they're in the loop. It would be dishonorable not to do so.
Marshal Vendry nods and she says, "I would expect nothing less, and I'm glad to hear that you're willing to participate in the meantime. I will send, and your commander's name is Commander Bright. Is it Brightburn?
Well, this sounds like someone who's going to end up with a different name than what you really call them.
We will send a messenger to Commander Brightblade, and we will eagerly await his response.
Okay, well, yes, I will wait. I will await it eagerly. Also, okay, cool.
So she goes ahead and you kind of get into like the details of it, and she says that she'll have tasks for you that you will be sent on as kind of this like special cohort. They don't really have a lot of free in the waiting in the wings military members that they're able to send on these scouting quests, especially with all the scouts having been murdered or supposedly. So you will be going on special missions. Each week you will be paid 5 gold pieces as a reward. You will also be given free lodging in Castle Kalaman, and you will be given a palm-sized emblem with a blue and gold symbol of Kalaman etched into its face. The symbol is of their special rank, which is akin to lieutenancy, higher than soldiers but lower than commanders.
Thank you.
So once you have all the details ironed out, she says, well, if you have anything to attend to, please do. But other than that, just report to the second floor, and the officers will find you lodging.
Regarding all of this, like, because I know this has all been very kind of Zundrium and Lance, Knights of Solamnia focused. Like, how is Val fitting into everything that's happening right now? Are these guys like just kind of accepting her as like a fellow kind of traveling companion, or are they kind of like, but not this person? They're not.
They're assuming that this woman that's come with you to negotiate and part of Vogler has also had her part in the events to play, and Raven probably also abdicated for Val, saying that she helped get everybody off. And
she was a big help on the boat ride over. She helped get everybody off.
Yeah, going from boat to boat. Yeah, right. She built a fire. But I would say that Val, what color are your clothing?
Purple.
Purple. Interesting. So, and describe them to me. Are they like robes? Is it like snug pants and like a tunic? Like what's the vibe?
I want to say fancy casual.
Oh, okay, interesting. So like upper class clothing, but like not like a wizard's cloak or anything like that.
Yeah.
And then how do you walk around with your staff? Is it like on your back? Are you walking with it in your hand?
I would say probably on my back, like not so like up front with it.
And do you have any other occult things on your person? Like, do you have like a pouch on your belt that would be full of spell components, or like, like rings that have like carvings in them or anything like that?
I want to say no.
Okay. So you're pretty under the radar, but I would say that somebody as shrewd as Marshall Vendry would probably have pegged you as some kind of magic type. And well, magic types are like, they're not like revolted against. They're kind of met with like not a suspicion, but like all right, I'm gonna let you do your thing because you probably have your own agenda. And so conversation about Val's part in this has remained unsaid. I imagine that she's going to join you for your adventures and tag along. But Val, now that you're in Kalaman, and this is something that you had been putting off for a while, you're like, do I want to go to Kalaman? Because there is something in Kalaman for you. Your grandmother, the same woman that handed this magical staff down to you, also gave you a scroll that she said if you ever wanted to expand your magical abilities and join a path towards the wizards of high sorcery, that you would take this to Wyhan's apothecary in Kalaman. And you're kind of like, you have this scroll, you're not sure if you want to go down this path, but if you do, that would be something to do while you're in Kalaman.
Okay. I do.
You do. Okay. So, you've been interested in this whole thing because Vogler was certainly a part of your life, living in the surrounding region. But as things start to wrap up and it seems like you'll have free time, you kind of get an excited flutter in your stomach because it's now the time to start your journey towards the mages of high sorcery. So essentially what has happened is you guys have left the council chamber. You've agreed to what's going to happen. You are now told that you can do whatever you would like, and when you're ready to get brought to your lodgings in Kalaman, or in Castle Kalaman, then to just report back to the castle. Raven kind of, gives you guys a nod and is just like, I'm going to go help out, get the refugees set up in the survivors camp. You can come with me if you wish, or you can do anything else if you need to. What are you guys doing?
Raven, is there some capable fighting people that you trust?
Yes, I mean there's certainly a couple of the militia members left after what has happened.
Derek's honor is unflappable. Perhaps you should keep him close as well. I'm concerned about us pushing Lord Baccharis too far and what he might do in retaliation. And the coward that he is, he would be unlikely to strike out at us. But I'd like you to, ensure your safety.
She nods and she says, I appreciate your concern, and Derek is probably our most trained fighter, so I will keep him close by. But I also think that you're thinking too much of Baccharis. I don't think he has the spine to try something like this.
Maybe. I just want something bad to happen to him, so yeah, if the opportunity arises.
Well, if you need to discuss anything with us, we'll just be getting camp set up in the western part of the camp outside the city. You'll be able to find us. So once again, we thank you for all you've done for our town. And she kind of gives you guys both a smile and a nod and heads out.
Cool. Bye.
Oh, bye.
So, what is the plan? You guys have been given a rundown of Vogler, of Kalaman, and you now know that these locations are available to you. So, if you look at,
Did we? I'm a broke-ass knight. Did we get our first week's pay up front?
You do get your pay up front. So you have 5 gold pieces.
Cool. So I say to the others, so we passed the marketplace back there, and think that maybe before we head out, it might be good to maybe stock up on some supplies. And yeah, I think I saw a place called like Wyvern's Apothecary or something like that. That looked pretty cool. Hey,
Um,
Val.
yeah, you guys head into the town. You can see that it's packed right now. You know, you would imagine that with townsfolk coming in from the surrounding countryside, that it has packed the city to exploding point, and then has started to pour out into these camps outside of the city as well. Um, but still, you know, like it's not like people are going hungry and there's like dysentery and disease and stuff. You guys are walking around and there are bakers selling their wares from carts, and you know, blacksmiths ringing on iron and stuff like that. And as you guys wander around, Val, you find yourself drawn to Wyhan's apothecary. And you know, you kind of like wander through the streets, meander your way there until you see this building of you know, dark wood. You can see that it's like it even looks like the windows would be dark during the day. It just looks like a place that doesn't get a whole lot of light. And most of the people, as they're walking by, don't even glance at the store. But you kind of like stop up short, and you know, your Knight of Solamnia retinue just kind of pull up behind you. And what do you want to do?
Go inside, I guess.
So as you enter, you can like you first notice that Wyand's apothecary smells of licorice and pepper. The modest shop has a few meager tables displaying good luck charms, old animal bones, and vials advertising various remedies. At the rear of the shop, a human woman with raven hair and a dark dress with feathered, wing-like sleeves stands behind a counter heaped with open books. She looks up from reading, eyes you with disinterest, then goes back to her book.
I'm gonna go talk to her. Let's say hello.
She You can see she kind of like looks up, and as oh, first of all, have your friends followed you inside?
I think I would have just set up outside somewhere. I don't think I would have respect the privacy.
I
Probably,
will. I will follow inside just for fun.
Okay. She, you know, looks up when the door rings, then goes back to her book, and then as you approach, she looks up, and you can see that her eyes kind of like snap to focus, and you know, she glances over your clothing, your posture, and the staff on your back, and then her eyes dart to the Knight of Solamnia standing at your shoulder, and she says, "Well, now you've caught my interest. What may I do for you?" And you can see she like kind of like slides a bookmark into place on her book and closes it shut.
Um, yeah, I'm gonna show her the scroll that I have.
You see she says, "Oh, I thought you would be interesting, and I thought right." So you slide the scroll across the table, and she looks at it. And she looks up at you, and she says, actually, first, before she asks you any questions, did you ever open the scroll that your grandmother gave you, or is it closed?
Yeah,
You opened it?
I I did. I mean, not actually. Veronica didn't open it, but yeah.
No, but Val
I would
would.
assume that she would have opened it
Okay,
to
so
to
then
see what was up.
you're just curious. Um, a couple years ago, you know, when you came of age and your grandma gave you passed down the staff to you, and then told you that you had a gift, and gave you this scroll, and told you not to open it, and that you would bring it to Wyhen in Kalaman, and they would direct you on your path towards the mages of high sorcery. So she had specifically instructed you not to open it, yet in your curiosity you did. And as you remember all the way back to when you first got the scroll, you brought it up into your room, and you undid this ornate ribbon around it, and you unrolled the scroll, and there was nothing. And you kind of like sat and stewed about that for a couple of years before this chance to come to Kalaman has finally arisen. And as you kind of like snap back to your present moment, and you've handed the scroll across to Wyhem, you can see she takes it, looks at the ribbon, and quirks a smile up a little bit, undoes it, unfurls it, and sets it aside. And she says, "Why do you think you're worthy of using magic?"
And I'm just like, what?
Say what?
I don't know. It was just like everyone in my family had it, so I just figured that I was supposed to have it too.
Do you serve your magic, or does your magic serve you?
I think my magic serves me.
How will
Well-
you change the world with your magic?
Oh, that's asking a lot of me. I'm not really looking to change the world. Just kind of going about and seeing what happens with my life and just trying to be a good person.
You see she's she kind of like nods to herself a little bit with that response, and then she pauses, looks at you one more time, and says, "If you were to lose your magic, what would you do?"
I don't know. Probably try and find a way to get it back.
Okay. You see she goes back to your scroll, reads it over a little bit, and she says, "As I predicted, I think that you will join the white robes of the mages of high sorcery. I will contact my fellows at the mages and petition for your inclusion in the organization. I will contact you when I hear back about the mages from the mages, and we'll discuss how you'll get to the Tower of High Sorcery in Wayrith. I will aid you in obtaining transportation to Wayrith when the time comes, so that you may take the test."
Okay.
Is there anything else that you need from me? And can I interest you in any of my wares?
What does she have?
You see
What kind
that
of wares does she have?
you see that she has like these like curtains behind her that are kind of just blend in with the rest of the drab interior, and she whoosh, pulls them to the side, and you can see that there are various curiosities around there. You can see like small baubles, potions filled with different colored liquids, just magical looking stuff. So if you're looking for any costly spell components, if you're looking for any potions or anything of the like, you'd be able to find them from Wyhen now that you have an in with her.
Okay. I think I'm good. I don't think I have any. Do I have money? I don't think I have any money.
You've been given 5 gold pieces, and as you kind of like reach for your very empty feeling coin purse, she kind of notes it, and she's like, well, I run a store, unfortunately not a charity, so while I will reach out to my contacts at the tower for you, I'm not willing to part with any of my wares free of charge. But if you do come back, I can guarantee you that I'll have something that's worth your while.
I'm gonna say, all right, I'll come back.
How did you find that experience, Zundrium? What's your character's opinion?
Yeah, okay. I was kind of waiting for the end of the social encounter to kind of chime in, but yeah, I was like, Sundry was super impressed by the wisdom of. Did we get a name?
Wyhan?
Wyhan. Yeah, I was really impressed by the wisdom of her, and as someone who's like recently come into, having some magical powers. He's kind of intrigued by the knowledge and what he might learn. I was also wondering, while we're in an apothecary, I guess for like this campaign, how seriously are we taking like magical components for spells, like materials, and like, do I need to try and stock up on?
So, we'll be handling it. We're kind of doing like partial hand waving, partial strict components. So the way that spell components will work, and this is actually an interesting note for anybody who's reading on and wants to dive into some mechanics of it, is and actually, I have a very good article on spellcasting focuses and their the rules related to them on my website. So go ahead and check that out on arcaneeye.com in the description below. Although I always forget to put things in the description below. So if it's on the description below, search spellcasting focus into Google, and I should be there.
The second result.
It's the second result. Perfect. So the way that we're going to be handling spellcasting focuses is if you have, when you're casting a spell, when you're looking at the spell, it should have a list of components, and that's verbal, somatic, and material, or VSM. If the material component has like an asterisk and then it shows below it, it's like, if you're casting Revivify, I believe it's a diamond worth a certain amount. I can't remember if it's 1,000 or 100, but I'm looking it up really quickly.
300.
Let's see.
Was it 300 dollars?
300 gold pieces. So, yes. So diamonds worth 300 gold pieces, which the spell consumes. If you want to cast Revivify, you need that diamond, or else you cannot cast that spell.
So you're just saying it's for like high level spells? Like I don't need does that say lodestones or iode stones?
No. So the way that material components work is you can use a spell casting focus, which in your for clerics can be like a symbol that's emblazoned on their shield or like on their breastplate or something like that.
My Kiri Jolith pendant.
Yeah, there you go. So when you have that on your person, you don't need to use the material components that are required for a spell, unless they have a gold, like a GP value.
Oh, so like where if the component says like XGP worth of diamond flakes or whatever. Then...
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, cool.
And the same goes for you, Val. You have a spell casting or a component pouch, and you have a staff which can be used as a spell casting focus. So you don't really need any bat wings or any bullshit like that. But if you want to cast like these like upper level, high level spells, and I have a good idea of which ones require costly components. You may run into situation. And like we don't. If I think that like as long as we're using Kalaman as a base and coming back here relatively frequently, we can always just say that when you need to use those spell components that you've just like stopped by and stocked up. Like, you know, I'm not going to say at the end of the campaign when somebody goes down and you have 300 GP on your person, it's like, oh no, you didn't go out and buy a diamond specifically. It's like, yeah, you probably went and did that at some point. But like if you don't have the money on your person at all, then there's unfortunately no way to cast those spells.
Okay, that was a good explanation. You should clip that up.
Yeah, I'll do a YouTube short on how to use spell casting. So do you want to talk to Wyhan at all, or like about your magical journey?
Yeah, I think I wait for like kind of Val's business is concluded and she kind of walks out the store, and I kind of make like I'm about to follow out, and then as the door closes I kind of turn to Wyvern and I take my hammer from its whatever you would call a hammer sheath, which I imagine kind of freaks her out in the split second that like I first like take it out. She's probably like, oh shit, what's this?
Yeah, because I would say that Knights of Solamnia, there is a bit of history between you and the Mages of High Sorcery.
Yeah, so I try and give her my warmest smile as I pull it out, but I do want it to be kind of dramatic. So I give her a warm smile and pull out my hammer, and I kind of place it, you know, heavy hammer part down on the kind of countertop between us that I'm imagining is there, and I just look her like dead in the eye, and I'm just like, what if I told you that Kiri Joliffe appeared before me in a dream, bless my hammer, and since then I've experienced some things I cannot quite explain.
You see that she has like a mischievous glint in her eye and like a knowing smile, and she's like, ages have passed and gods are returning to this world, and now you boys in your shining armor are going to experience things that have not been heard of for millennia. And she like glances down at your hammer and then back up to you, and she says, unfortunately, I don't think your hammer is going to be the one getting you out of these tricky situations you're about to find yourself. But if you ever want to get into some trouble, I definitely can show you how.
Why is she so? I know I'm outside the shop, but why is she so sexy about this?
Maybe she's just a sexy gal. You don't know.
Yeah. Digging my chainmail. I will.
Yeah, we just go into a 45-minute fuck session between Zundrium and this woman.
I guess Zundrium's not entirely sure whether, like, when she says, like, kind of, if you want to get into some trouble, let me know, whether she's, like, trying to bed me or trying to, like, give me fun, like, magical quests that get me into trouble. Or if she kind of knows, I don't know, a way to...
Make me an insight check, then.
Okay. Perfect solution. That is a 14.
14. By, like, looking at this woman's stature and knowing what you do, which is, like, relatively little about the Mages of High Sorcery, you know that there are 3 orders in the mages. There are black robes, red robes, and white robes. So when
right, this is sounding familiar.
When she gave Val her charge and said, "You'll probably be a white robe," you could tell that there was a bit of like condescension in her voice, and the way that she's talking to you now, she sees a lawful good paladin who's like out of his depth, and she's trying to like play with you a little bit because you would understand that this woman is a black robe, and she's very maybe she's not inherently evil, but she is like selfish. She's obsessed with power, and she really has no moral compass.
Well, that's some mighty fine insight for a 14.
14's pretty good.
So the one, so she can't be that magical because she thinks I'm a paladin.
Cleric, paladin, you guys are all the same.
She hasn't got me completely figured out. So I'm okay. So I'm insightful enough to realize that she's kind of teasing me or trying to mess with me a little bit.
Yes, yeah. She's like, this kid is out of his depth right now.
Okay, cool. So yeah, I went. So the last thing she said to me was just that basically like, oh, if you want to get in some trouble, I can help you out with that. And I just kind of smile and say, honor is my duty. I must return to my party. Thank you for your wisdom today. I enjoyed hearing the things that you had to say. And
yeah, she her eyes don't break from you as you turn around. You can still feel them like boring into the back of your head as you hit the fresh air and
I rub the back of my head.
The fresh air and sunlight, and like you felt like you were in an entire different world in that apothecary. It was so like dim and dark, but now you kind of like blink in the light, and you can see that Val has already gone to stand by Lance, and they're both looking back for you.
Cool.
So what's the plan now? You guys have done the apothecary. Is there anything else? Any other places you would like to hit before you head back to the castle and get shown your quarters?
Am I remembering rightly? We've been given a place to stay. Oh, you just said that. Yeah, I was going to ask if we've been given a place to stay.
Yeah. You'll be staying somewhere in the castle.
What about Okay, so that was apothecary. What about like just general kind of? I guess I have good armor and stuff. There's not really much to upgrade.
I want to check out the market just for fun, just for something to do. Right. Well,
I think we can look around. I assume there would be, like blacksmiths and then just general like food and like material merchants and stuff like that. Like, is it much of a market?
Yeah, so you would know. So as you guys you're like, yeah, let's go check out the market. You would understand that Kalaman is a thriving trade center. So this city market is like absolutely bumping. There's strange people selling all kinds of wares. You see dwarves, people, kender, from all regions of Ansalon. And you even see like a couple gnomes here that are like, selling their interesting tinkerings. And you can buy any piece of equipment from the player's handbook here. And I'm trying to.
The player's handbook is downstairs right now.
Yeah, so it'd be hard to very much explain what the sheer number of things that you can purchase here. But like really, if you're looking for like any kind of weapon or equipment or item that's not like powerfully magical, they would probably have it here.
Okay.
They have like.
I'd like to look around for a stall selling like food, like not necessarily like. I mean, like bulk food, like either a grocer or maybe like someone making a lot of rice or something like that.
Yeah, and there are plenty of places selling that kind of stuff. Are you looking for?
I'm gonna go around.
Are you looking for like dried food, or are you looking for like a vendor like selling fresh food?
A mixture. Like I'm just gonna go around and talk to people and try to get the best deal I can with the 22 gold that I have remaining, to purchase food and have it delivered out to the refugee camp.
Okay, very interesting. So, when you initially talk to let's say you've gone up to like a grocer who's like selling like fruits and meats and bread and that kind of stuff, you would equate the amount of food that he's trying to give you for 5 silver pieces to be the amount of food that somebody would be able to eat in one day. And he's like, yeah, you get your you'll have bread, some dried meat, some cheese. That should definitely hold anybody over.
So what we're saying? We said it was 5 silver pieces, 10 silver pieces to a gold.
So you could
So
buy
only really
44 days worth of food with 22 gold pieces.
Or food for a day for just 44 people.
That's true.
Is there? Do I see any cheaper options, like just like loads of rice and vegetables or something?
So you kind of like give him a nod, head out around the place to scan around. Make me a perception check.
18.
18. You see down closer to the harbor that there appears to be like a vendor who's selling like a little bit worse for wear looking food. It's kind of on the outskirts of the market, bruised apples, stuff like that.
Yeah, I'll go speak to them and explain the situation that we're in.
And you can tell this is like a gruff looking fellow, and he's like, it doesn't matter to me who you're feeding.
Okay, will you be able to deliver it?
Yeah, I could give you, we'll say, 1 day's rations for 3 silver pieces a person.
And if I was making a bulk purchase, there's a discount, right? Like, say I was getting like 22 gold's worth, you're gonna knock that down to.
Make me a persuasion check.
18.
18. You see, he kind of like chews it over for a bit and is like, "Yeah, I'll knock a silver piece off each order if you're spending 22 gold."
You're a good man, and you just made 22 gold.
You see, you hand over the gold, and so are you planning on delivering this food yourself, or are you hoping that he delivers it?
I'm trusting that he will.
And he's like, "All right, I'll get that down by the end of the day."
Okay. Well, please hurry. There's many hungry people who travel far.
Okay. Anything else that you guys are looking for? You could buy anything from, I'll literally tell you, you could buy an abacus all the way to a whetstone.
I don't have any money.
Any of these other 2 people looking for anything?
Yeah, I don't have. I'm poor.
Cool. All right. Well, after some wandering around, helping Lance make his negotiations, are you guys just heading back to the castle now?
Well, so while we were wandering around the market, I bumped into a guy at the stables and inquired about mounts, and he explained to me, I think, that horses are 75 gold. If you wanted to like buy one outright. So I kind of think aloud to Lance and Val. I'm just like, in hindsight, I think that we possibly should have negotiated horses into our deal with the city along with our accommodation. So it seemed like they're going to be financially out of our reach for some time. Do perhaps is there like horse rental, an enterprise horse rental in this village? City?
Or a budget horse rental. Yeah, you could have got a donkey if you pool the five
One
gold
donkey, just
pieces
all three of us.
given to Val and Zundrim. You could buy a donkey or a mule for 8 gold pieces, which isn't terrible.
I saw a mastiff was an option.
Not bad.
Could I ride a mastiff?
No, unless you were a small character or small creature, I don't think you can. So we could go back and re-roll your character as a halfling if you want.
Just so I can ride a mastiff around.
So yeah, in terms of your horse woes, you might be able to talk the people at the castle into giving you a horse or something, but you will have to certainly head back there.
Do we know where we're headed? Like, I know we're kind of headed out of the city to do something. Do we know where that will be yet, or do we still have to like connect with someone?
No, they were like, get settled. We'll talk tomorrow.
Okay, cool. Yeah, well, I guess at this point I'd be all right with. I guess it's like probably getting into the day a bit. We head back to the inn or wherever we're staying, grab like a meal and a beer and hit the sack. Or
yeah, we'll say it's much past noon at this point. You know, like after you finished helping the villagers unload, you had that conversation with the council. You've gone and done a day out in the town. We'll say it's probably close to like 3 p.m. You know, sun has definitely passed its zenith. You guys head back up to the castle. You know, you show your emblems that you were given to a guard there, and he says, "Oh, right. Well," and you know, he kind of motions for you to follow him, and he says, "The city councils and governor meet on the first floor here. Various government offices, small library, and armory can also be found. The second floor, which we're going to be walking through, is where the military command and officer lodgings are. Third floor, that's where we stay, the castle guards. Most other soldiers that we have on our payroll reside elsewhere in the cities or in the castle's ancillary structures. Unfortunately, seeing as we're so jam-packed at the moment, we'll have you stationed in the fourth floor, which is currently vacant. But you know, it's airtight, it's dry. You won't get rained on or anything up there." So he walks you through the castle. And you know, you eventually reach the fourth floor after passing through a couple of floors full of, you know, guards in the blue and gold. And he, you know, opens the door to this a room that seemed like it used to be a small ballroom in the past. A row of pillars sculpted with knotwork and images of knights supports a vaulted ceiling. Light shines into the room through tall windows facing the mountains to the south. One corner of the hall holds a collection of plain cots, empty chests, and nearby stands a large wooden table. And he kind of like nods to you and is just like, "All right, well, get settled, and you know, if you want any good grub, there's plenty of good food down at the Wanderer's Rest. That's where a bunch of the officers go and hang out after their shifts." And he kind of like gives you guys a nod, turns around and leaves. And Zundrim, as you're scanning around the room, you know, Lance and Val have gone off to like dump their belongings. You see that your chambers, the stonework and statues also depict the warrior god Kiri Jolith, patron of Salamnic Knights of the Sword. And you know, this room seems to be almost dedicated to Kiri Jolith.
Cool. Yeah, I immediately accept it as no mere coincidence and feel very, very, very happy.
So as you guys are getting settled in, you're getting set to kind of like spend the night in and everything. You hear footsteps and clanging outside. And then before you can even like stand up from your beds to see what the clatter is all about, the doors kind of burst open and Darrett's there. And he kind of runs in breathless, like huffing and puffing, red-faced. And he's holding a sack. And which one of you, it was last session, one of you was talking to Than and was like the tinkerer gnome. And you were saying like, oh, do you want me to go in and like see if I can gather any of your belongings, your inventions?
That was Zom.
That was Zom.
Yeah, that was me. Yeah.
So Zom, you're like, why is Darrett holding Than's sack? And he kind of rushes in. He almost looks hysterical, and he says, "Did she tell you about this?"
You're gonna have to elaborate there.
Did Becklin, did she tell you about this? And he kind of like shakes the sack at you like aggressively.
But I have no idea what is inside that sack. Do you want to tell me, or is it safe to peek?
You see, he kind of like sets it down on the ground, just kind of like wide eyes and a panic, and reaches in and pulls out a Knight of Solamnia helmet that you can tell has been custom fit for Darrett.
Oh.
And then when he pulls it out, I smile and say, "Of course she did. She was oh so very proud of you."
And you can see like tears are like welling up in his eyes, and he's like, "Why? I'm not ready for this."
Well, clearly, Beckham thought otherwise.
And we'll say that you spend the rest of the night. You find a bottle of hard alcohol or something somewhere, and you guys all manage to you open it up and pass around a couple glasses and spend the night talking. Just finally like. The past couple days have just been an absolute whirlwind, and now you guys as Zum and Lance are at least feeling a little bit back at home. You're in a military compound in a city with walls surrounding it. There's no dragon people marching upon your village, and you can see the beginnings of like a true Knight of Solamnia in Darrett, and you're grateful as well for your mystical magical Val friend as well. And we'll leave the session there with you guys closing out the day, reminiscing on the past, talking about Becklin, talking about your time in the Knights of Solamnia, and just generally bonding as a party.
And completing a long rest at the end of it.
And completing a long rest at the end of it.
It's rare to finish on a nice note on a session.
Usually it's like a cliffhanger.
Happy for
that. I'm happy for Derek. Good for him.
Well, and thank everybody for joining our session today. If you liked the play, you can like and subscribe for more videos. You can check out the past sessions if this is your first video, and we'll see you next week.
Okay, bye.
Bye.